This is part 2 of the 1956 Ford pickup truck mechanical restoration. There's the hood tilting kit here, and the first thing you need to do is you need to pull the hinges off both sides like that, and then you cover them up with these trim plates. This stainless steel trim plate's going to go on here. Hopefully I can polish this up a little bit to cover what used to be the hinge mounting spot. Then over on the hood, you have to mount this assembly which supports the entire hood and hinges it. So down here, this bolts into these existing holes. This here is just raw steel. It all has to be cleaned and primed and painted. And then up here you have to cut out some metal, drill 3 holes, put these bolts in. Same on the other side, over here. And this part here is going to be hinged, going to be attached to the body, and then this will tilt the hood. This will be when the hood tilts up, this will be in an up position like that. So the whole bracket there, the triangular bracket, is actually the tilting mechanism. The hood is just bolted to it. It didn't go together easily. A lot of twisting and stuff. Not exactly the best thing I've ever bought, but I've seen it on, I've seen guys on YouTube doing them, and I just ran into the same problems and just did what they did to fix it. So that's it for now. So it took 2 people to put this hood on. It's definitely not a one-man job. 2 shock absorbers and 2 front wheel grease seals. $124. I remember the day a shock absorber like this would be on sale for $9.99, and the grease seal would be like $3.50. The shock absorbers that were on this truck were wrong. Here's a new one, here's the old one. They're too short, and I knew it didn't look right, so, and these are pretty old, and all the rubbers are all squeezed down on them. They're brittle. But sure enough, they had the wrong shock absorbers on the front of the truck. One of the things I wanted to do is replace the emblems. The emblems that on the truck had no paint on them. So I bought the custom cab emblems with the paint, and I also bought the Ford hood emblems, the F100 emblems with the red insert paint. And it looks really nice against the green body. So I got those on, and then I moved forward with other mechanical work when the parts got in, and the next one was this brake job. Okay, I'm changing the rear brake hose on the 56 today. So this is what's left. This is what's left of the brake hose sticking into that bracket. And the brake line I removed from it is hanging right here, and that end is frozen on the end of the tube, so I'm going to free that up. But I cut the hose to get it off, and I got the new brake hose screwed in already to this block. So now I have to get a mirror and get behind there and pull a clip off to get that broken piece of hose off, and then reassemble. So it shouldn't be too much longer. This will be completed. Then we're going to be putting new shocks on. I've already pulled the shocks off here, see? And they came off because the bolts were on there finger tight. I don't know why they were so loose. Never seen anything like it in the Northeast. They'd be so rusted, they'd probably break off. Here are the shocks. They've obviously been on there quite a long time, so instead of taking any chances, I'm just replacing them both. Well, the brake hose turned out to be a little more than I bargained for. This end here fits into a bracket up inside the frame, and the bracket I had to pull out because it's blind. This has to snap onto there with a clip, and you can't get to the back side of it to pull the clip. So I had to get this bolt out here. It came out of this hole right here, which holds this bracket in from behind, and had to blindly get a wrench on the other side of this, and I pulled the bracket out, and now I'm going to reassemble and put the bracket back in. It's a rough job. I had to pull the wheel off here. I got the vehicle up on jack stands, and it's held up by the scissors lift, so it's pretty safe. When I was underneath there, I realized that the back springs were broken, missing parts, and they both were all worn out. So I had already replaced both the front springs, so at this point I ordered a set of rear springs, and I found out in order to get these shackles apart, because they've been in there for so many decades, that I had to pull the box off the back of the truck. That was the only way to do it. So using 4 sawhorses and 2 2x10s, this is what we did here. Doesn't look like much to it when you get that off.
Well, how are you going to hit that pin? You're going to have to pick up the whole frame.
No, this one's already come out right through here. There's a hole right here. See it? Right there. This will drive out. They're going to drive that hole too. But at least I can get here and wail on it. And this is going to be up on the lift when we do this. So they'll come out. Much easier job now. Get the box on 4 sawhorses and 2 2x10s here.
The hardest part is going to be getting this thing underneath that again.
Yeah, that's going to be a little scary.
Well, you might get 3 of your biggest friends over there and just manually put it on.
And we're able to use these boards here, 2x10s, to lift one corner at a time and get the sawhorse underneath there, and then carefully drive the truck out from under it. But they had to be wide enough to let the wheels pass. But now for storing it here, we move the sawhorses in real close so that the boards would support that without snapping or bending. So it's real safe. It's not going to budge. It's not as heavy as you might think it is. We could easily, one person could lift a corner up off the truck while the other person slides a sawhorse under. These 2 spring shackles, one here and one right here, there's pins that have to be driven out from the back side through the frame, and they're frozen in there. This one has come out, that front one has not. This one here has come out, but that front one has not come out. You get access to this hole right there in the frame, right here. So, trying to get at these, they're right underneath this here brace. Okay, I'm in the process of degreasing the differential, which was covered in a layer of thick black grease. And also the frame mounts for the leaf springs. There's the rear one, and there's the front one. And they were completely slathered in dried grease and on both sides. So using some gunk and some of the purple degreaser, I believe it's made by Zepp, something like that, and a power washer. So how do we power wash in the winter in a garage with no water supply? Well, I start with a bucket of hot water from the house. I run it through this small pump here, and from that I run it through this short hose over to the power washer, which is electric. So the first thing I do is I plug in the wastewater pump. It sends water to the power washer, and it actually works really well. And my floor is kind of a mess here. That'll be another project for another day. But at this point, I've ordered the springs, and I've got the running boards off also, so I have complete access in here to these mounts. And I have new hardware, shackles, things like that coming today. But it'll be another couple weeks before I get everything together and get this thing back on the road again. Okay, we're in the process of putting the box back on, having installed a new set of rear springs and all the hardware to attach those springs. It wasn't real easy, but you just have to be patient. This took about an hour and a half to do this from start to finish.
A little more to the right.
How did we do this before? We had to lift the box, huh?
Yeah.
Like I'll lift the box here?
If you want to. Careful.
Go ahead, can you get it under there?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay.
We okay?
You're gonna clear.
That's not a problem.
Okay so far?
Yep. I don't know how far back you want to go.
That it?
Stop.
Hot, stop.
You've still got a ways to go.
Okay, but let's look.
I don't want to bump the back.
No,
I think what we want to do is we want to lower the front.
that's fine. So we found that once the truck was underneath the bed, it wasn't that hard to slide the bed left or right to line up the mounting holes. And once we got the rear mounting holes lined up, we dropped a couple of carriage bolts in. It wasn't that hard to finish it up. It's just a matter of carefully lining up the bolts and getting underneath there and putting the lock washers and nuts into the frame. The bolts go through the bed of the truck, through a frame on the bed itself, and then through the blocks of wood which are mounted under the box, and then right through the frame. The 2x10s will slide right between the frame and the box when the box is fully mounted to the truck, which makes it really convenient for picking the box up off the frame if you ever have to do this. The box is held on by 4 large carriage bolts on each side. That's 8 carriage bolts. And there's no wiring or anything involved, except you have to drop the taillights off, because the taillight brackets are attached to the rear of the box, and remove the tailgate, which is relatively easy to do, to remove extra weight and have access to get in there. And then it's just a matter of patiently dropping 1 carriage bolt at a time through the hole into the frame and getting under there and tightening the fender washer, lock washer, and the nut. Out comes the boards, and the sawhorses are no longer needed, and it's just a matter of finishing it up and driving it back in the garage and putting the fenders on it. One thing about the fenders is you have to mount the running board before you mount the rear fenders. Otherwise you cannot get the running board under the rear fender and the rear box. So here are the fenders and the running boards back on the truck. Truck has 4 new springs and sits up nice and high the way it should sit. The hood tilt kit working perfectly. A little bit of time lining it up, but once it's lined up, it's perfectly fine. The front end sheet metal was not lined up real great anyways, and I'm not going to move the fenders around and try to fix that. It's not that bad. So here we have the truck completely assembled now with the Ford decals on the tailgate and 4 new springs, 4 new shock absorbers, a new brake master cylinder, 1 new wheel cylinder, new rear brakes, new speedometer cable and a new speedometer, new interior, new emblems on the hood and on the doors. The only thing I want to do is get rid of these wheels. I know some will like this sort of custom look, and I want them gone, and I want to put the original wheels with Ford hubcaps. That's the way I want the truck to look. I want it to be pretty much dead stock original, and it's pretty much that way on the interior. So all we're waiting for is the wheels, so I can put these shiny new Ford hubcaps and also a spare tire for the side, and the truck will be finished except for some tweaking after we drive it.